Mr. Speaker, I rise today to discuss this administration's massive cover-up of the Epstein files in order to conceal President Trump's involvement. This cover-up reached its apex last month when Attorney General Pam Bondi falsely testified under oath before the House Judiciary Committee. The Attorney General testified, quote, "There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that," unquote. This is a lie. In the 3 million or so documents that the DOJ has disclosed to Congress under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, there is credible evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime. And that, of course, excludes the nearly 3 million pages that the DOJ is refusing to turn over. Donald Trump is mentioned thousands of times in the Epstein files. There are multiple allegations that he sexually assaulted young girls. But I want to focus on one victim's allegations that the FBI unquestionably found to be credible. The DOJ tried to hide reports of 3 of the 4 interviews that this victim gave to the FBI, but pressure from the media and Congress forced them to disclose them. And now we know why. She credibly accuses Donald Trump of sexually assaulting her when she was between 13 and 15. In each of her interviews, this victim recited the same account of her interaction with Donald Trump. On August 7th, 2019, she explained that she was between 13 and 15 when she was left alone with Donald Trump, who, quote,
Dan Goldman just read a crime into the congressional record, and he did it using the government's own documents. What you just heard was not opposition rhetoric. It was a sitting congressman, a former federal prosecutor, citing FBI interview notes, a 21-page PowerPoint that the Bureau built for prosecutors, and DOJ disclosure records to make a single, specific legal argument that the Attorney General of the United States committed perjury. Here is the context that makes this land even harder. Pam Bondi was fired on April 2, 2026. Not by Democrats, not by the press, but by Donald Trump himself. The reason, according to sources inside the White House, was her catastrophic mishandling of these exact files. She had promised a full public release. She reneged. Congress had to pass a law, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, to force the DOJ's hand. And even then, the DOJ withheld roughly 3 million of the 6 million pages. When Bondi appeared before the House Oversight Committee in February, she talked about the stock market instead of answering questions. Democrats walked out within 30 minutes. Now she is dodging a subpoenaed deposition, claiming her firing lets her off the hook. Bipartisan lawmakers say it does not. The question is not just whether Bondi lied. The question is who told her to. Let's be precise about what a prosecutorial PowerPoint presentation.
In a 21-page PowerPoint presentation that the FBI made to prosecutors, they included this victim's testimony. They would not have done so if they did not find the evidence credible, which means that Attorney General Bondi lied when she stated under oath that there is no evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime. But we're just scratching the surface, because the Epstein files also reveal that Donald Trump has made false statements over the past quarter century about Jeffrey Epstein. We know in 2002 he called him a terrific guy and said, quote, "It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." In a birthday card, 2003, that Donald Trump gave to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday, Donald wrote for himself that we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Enigmas never aged. Have you noticed that? A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. And may every day be another.
Means. The FBI does not build a 21-page deck for federal prosecutors with a witness's account embedded in it unless the agents working the case believe that witness will hold up. That is not advocacy. That is evidence triage. And the DOJ knew it, which is exactly why they tried to hide 3 of the 4 FBI interview reports this victim gave. The press and Congress forced disclosure. That is the only reason we are hearing this on the House floor today. Now layer in what Goldman just showed. Trump publicly called Epstein a terrific guy who liked women on the younger side. He wrote in a birthday card that they shared certain things in common and wished Epstein wonderful secrets. And that same year, the Palm Beach County investigation into Epstein began. When the police chief got a call from Trump, Trump's message was, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." Read that again. Everyone has known. That is not the statement of someone with no knowledge. That is the statement of someone who is relieved someone else finally got caught. The timeline is not ambiguous. The documents are not ambiguous. The only thing being kept ambiguous is the full contents of those 3 million withheld pages. The dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Epstein wrote that in an email to Ghislaine Maxwell, essentially congratulating himself on keeping Trump's name out of public reporting. That email is now in...
The recent documents also show that Jeffrey Epstein emailed Ghislaine Maxwell and said, quote, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned." Trump also denied that he ever went on Epstein's plane. But of course, the Southern District of New York said that he was on his plane 8 times, often with young women.
Congressional hands, and it sits alongside flight logs from the Southern District of New York, documenting Trump on Epstein's plane 8 times, often with young women aboard. Trump denied ever being on that plane. That denial is now in the same congressional record as the SDNY documentation refuting it. Here is the systemic issue. The DOJ had all of this. The FBI had a 21-page prosecution brief with a credible victim account directly implicating the president. And the Attorney General stood before Congress under oath and said, quote, "There is no evidence Donald Trump committed a crime." She was fired 12 days before her subpoenaed deposition was scheduled. Acting AG Todd Blanche has not ruled out invoking executive privilege to keep her from testifying. The survivors, women who have been waiting nearly 3 decades, are publicly demanding she appear now. When a government redacts accomplice names but leaves victim details exposed, that is not clerical error. That is a choice, and someone made it. Here is what the record shows. The FBI found a victim credible enough to include her account in a prosecutorial presentation. The DOJ hid 3 of her 4 interview reports until the press forced disclosure.
The reason why this matters is because we don't have half of the Epstein files. And if the Attorney General is covering this up in such a degree that she is redacting things from Congress, that she then, redacting things from the public that she then shows to Congress, what else is she covering up? And I would just show that this document here was redacted to the public, it was unredacted to Congress, and it completely disputes everything that Donald Trump has said about Jeffrey Epstein, about what he knew about the allegations, about his disgusting behavior, about whether he'd ever been to Epstein's house, saying, "I may have been there with my wife." Asked if any young girls were there. No. He may have had children of guests, but that's it. Well, we know that's not the case. Now, why is this important? Because if the Attorney General is covering up this information that she then reveals to Congress, what else is she covering up about Donald Trump's involvement in the Epstein files? I yield back.
The Attorney General told Congress under oath there was no evidence Trump committed a crime. 12 days before she was due to answer for that testimony under oath, she was fired and is now refusing to appear. Meanwhile, the government redacted accomplice information from files released to the public while leaving victim personal details exposed. That is a policy decision. Someone approved it. Epstein himself wrote that Trump was the dog that hadn't barked. Flight logs from federal prosecutors document 8 trips on Epstein's plane, despite Trump's public denials. A birthday card in Trump's own handwriting references shared secrets. A call to a police chief includes the words, "Everyone has known." The cover-up is not a theory. The pattern of redaction, delay, broken promises, fired officials, and skipped depositions is documented. What we do not have is the other 3 million pages. Pam Bondi was fired by the man she was protecting. She is now dodging the deposition that would put her answers under oath. Epstein survivors have been waiting 27 years. The question every person watching this should be asking is simple. If there is nothing to hide, why is everything being hidden? Stay informed, share this, and make sure you subscribe because the story is not done.